All right, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Hustle podcast. Today we've got a dear friend of mine, Miss Shae McLeod. Shae runs a high-powered team all across southwestern Ontario. She's representing 5 to 6 locations currently, as well as continuing to grow. Shae's been a top producer since she's gotten in the business while working a full-time second job, managing her business, being with her family all the time, and continuing to grow and take social media by storm. Shae, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm doing
What?
well, and I'm very excited to finally get on here.
I know we've been trying to get you on now for probably close to 2 years, and you finally accepted the invite. Yeah, I'm calling you out.
I have nothing to say other than, you know what? I'm glad I'm here.
Fair enough. Okay, so tell me. I mean, because you went the corporate route first. You were working for courthouses. You were doing all kinds of other stuff, and then you decided to switch it up and get into real estate. What made that happen for you?
Yeah. So, growing up, I'm a person who does very well with words and really likes to, take care of people, defend people. And so, the little girl in me was trying to make my dad very happy by becoming a lawyer. And so I did start off in the legal sector, started off in admin and kind of worked my way up working in youth and adult probation and had a really great job working for the government. And then I think I was like mid 20s and I was like, wow, I am way too young to absolutely hate what I'm doing. But I did everything right. I had the pension, I had the benefits, I had one of the best employers, and I was very unhappy. And so, I was actually dating a person in my mid 20s who was in the investor world and had a background of flipping properties. And we decided, you know what, let's do something a little bit different and let's get into, real estate investing. And so, I ended up going to get my real estate license simply because I learned very quickly that it was very hard to find investor focused realtors who were actually investing. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this myself so that when I get my license, I can then kind of help it transcend into, the investing side of my life, and did that. I quit working for the government a few years later. So there was a period of time where I had like 3 jobs, but ended up stopping working for the government. And I started working on my own portfolio and then slowly helping investors grow their portfolio. And then at one point in time, I feel like I was driving across Ontario, which is kind of how the birth of my team started.
It's interesting you say that because, for those of you listening or watching, depending on where you are, what's crazy is Shae was working 3 full-time jobs. She's a full-time realtor, full-time investor, and a full-time at the judicial system, at the courthouses, running stuff over there too. I remember chatting with you and going, you don't have time to do anything but this, but you still managed to put it together. And like you said, you were still doing all that, driving across southwestern Ontario, all of Ontario, because your range is what, Muskoka to Niagara Falls,
London,
to London, and to
Toronto,
what, Oshawa?
Oshawa.
The Schwa. That's crazy. And so you kind of built a team, not the other way. Like most people kind of build their team locally to one section, and you decided I'm going to have clients everywhere. How's that showing up for you?
Really well.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, when I first got into real estate, it was primarily just for my own portfolio as an investor. And then, as I started to network and meet more investors and, join different groups, I started helping out friends that I had met in the community who were looking in specific markets. And so
Right.
that's kind of how it grew to me working multiple areas because, when it comes to investing, there's always a strategy that investors follow. And as soon as you can understand that strategy, a really great realtor should be able to help them, transact in multiple markets. Um,
Right.
and so that's kind of how it started. And then a year in, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm working real estate full time. I have my investment and flipping business that we're doing on the other side. And then I have my full time job. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't keep driving and working to the level that I am because, burnout is real. And so I did what everybody told me not to do, and I started a team a year into having my license. Everybody usually says you got to wait like 5+ years, and I was like, no. I'm definitely, as you know, one of those people that if everybody's going left, I'm going to go right, and I'm going to figure out what's down that way, and I'm going to make it happen, and it's going to be good. And
That's
that's basically
awesome.
what I did with my team. So yes, as you said, most people, have realtors in one market, and it's no shade on them because that's a strategy that does work. But the way my business works, we are predominantly investor focused when it comes to the clients that we work with. And our investors are looking multiple markets. So, in the last few years, we've kind of worked our way out to not only helping our investors in Ontario, but Alberta and BC. And we're working on some other stuff in Tulum and in the States. So, yeah.
You're crazy. You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. I
Other
mean, I love it. And I think what, like 80 to 90% of your business would be investor focused? Are you that high in the investment world?
Yeah, so I would say for me, predominantly, not including my team's transactions, 80 to 90% for sure.
Wow. Wow. So you've got this investor heavy business. You've got these incredible group. And I'm gonna say it, I mean, girl gang, whatever you guys want to call yourself. It's this incredible group of ladies that are taking on a typically male dominated sector of the real estate industry where we see a lot of men show up. And here you are with what is there, five ladies plus your admin, and you guys are making waves and changing what's to be expected. What made you go with investors? Was it just a personal thing? You're already investing. This is an easy access.
Yeah, well, so I had a side hustle on the side of my other government job, which most people don't know about, but I'll say it here. So, as I said, I reached a point where, I was like, okay, I'm way too young to like not be motivated and not really like my job. And so at the time, I had a job working, a part time job working in a clothing store. I love fashion. I like shopping. Anybody who knows me knows that. And I had a manager who said, Shae, you either got to get into pharmaceuticals or you got to get into, like real estate because you'll do very well. And so I was working in as a bridal consultant. So I was a bridal stylist, which was probably, aside from real estate, one of my favorite jobs ever because it was just so sweet. But yeah, so like I said, I kind of used a lot of the skills that I had from that. I have a natural ability to connect with people. I genuinely like people. And I think that, when it comes to real estate and especially investing, it is a relationship and people based business. And I think that a lot of people haven't really spent a lot of time looking at it that way. And I've been able to pick up the clients and investors left behind who actually want a relationship based approach to, working with a realtor who's going to be, representing them with one of their most expensive assets. So it's worked very well. Yes, you're 100% correct when you say my team is very different. And I think the basis around that is, we live in a society where everybody's trained to fit into a certain, box. And I spent a lot of my youth trying to figure out, well, I don't feel like I fit in anywhere because my personality is so, so dynamic. And so I promised myself that when I got into real estate, I would never lose sight of who I am as a person. Because at that point I knew who I was. And, I definitely would say we definitely broke down barriers. People who see our marketing, they're like, oh my gosh, but it's just us. And at the end of the day, you either love it or you hate it. But what you see is what you get. And we're always going to show up as our best self. So, yeah, I'll always say to people that it's okay to do something different. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing, and just be you.
It's true. It's true. I'm gonna take a little bit of credit for putting you on this path. Do you remember when we met?
I
So
remember
for
we
those of
met.
you listening, Shae and I met, and Shay's a troublemaker. You get to know her. Shay's a troublemaker, and so Shae and I were talking about getting into business together. And like
We
halfway through the process, I was like, nah, this girl is gonna push her, she's gonna push you really hard, which is there's never a problem with that, right? But I kind of like you said, I wanted to be unique to me. And I remember thinking that in the second, I think it was the second appointment we had, and I was like, I closed the book and I was like, nah, you just got to go do this yourself. And there were other people who were a little mad because they were trying to recruit you too and trying to get you to join their businesses. And I was like, don't listen to any of them. Here's what you're going to go do. And that was right before you kind of kicked off with the team, because what I was seeing was exactly that. Like, you had this drive, you had this hustle, and you don't really listen to nobody.
No.
And I,
I will admit that. Absolutely not. No.
and I was like, I can't bring you into my world and have you be telling me what to do. And I was like, you need to go on your own and start your stuff, because I was starting to challenge. I was trying to, effectively challenge what you wanted to do and say, no, you can't do it that way. We got to shorten your radius. You're driving all over town. And you're
Correct.
like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to do it my way. And you just got to adapt. And so I'm going to take full credit for McLeod and Associates Realty Advisors, because I formed that team. That was me.
I'm laughing because I have a distinct memory in my head. And we were talking, and I was like telling you about this crazy vision. And I'm like, well, what about having one team with agents in multiple markets who are local to that market? And you're like, no, it doesn't work. People try it, doesn't work. And then you were still trying to sell me on, the way that you were suggesting. And then at one point, I think my face was just like,
You
and
were
you
dead.
said,
Yeah.
you know what, Shae? You have this crazy look in your eyes where, I feel like you're just going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
So we're going to let you do it. And
Yeah.
I was like, perfect. And so, yeah, I think you always just got to follow your gut. I think there's so many different entrepreneurs and so many creatives, in this world. And again, people get so used to just fitting into a mold. And I lived that life for a very long time. And then I was like, wow, I'm too young and I'm making like too much money to be this unhappy because I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And so that's why I always say to people, when you're in that situation where you're doing something that just doesn't feel good, challenge yourself, to look at what
Right.
does feel good, what makes sense to you. And if it's real estate, if it's investing, hell, I had my electrician here, okay? And he's great. He's a young guy, shout out to Troy. He's great. And I just felt his energy. I was like, I asked him, I said, Troy, do you love what you do? And he said, I absolutely hate it. And I was like, dude, you're like 35, you're too young to like literally hate what you're doing. And started talking about what he actually enjoyed and trying to help him get that back to that, because
Right.
point what's the point in waking up 7 days a week to absolutely hate what you do? What's the point in it all, right? So yeah, I'm
I
forever
love
going to
that.
be telling people to follow what feels good, because that's where you'll see them thrive.
Well, and I think, to add to that as well, like, yes, 100% do what makes you happy. We've had a number of guests on recently, and that's been a theme that we're seeing more and more and more in real estate. And I don't know if people are just tired, they're burnt out, we're on the other side of COVID, whatever it is. This is one of the hardest real estate years in modern history. Like, this year has separated those that deserve to be here and everybody else that's kind of trying it. But so that happiness equation keeps coming up, is are you doing what truly makes you happy? Now, I mean, you did what made you happy, but one of the things I love about you is you're not afraid to like ask, whether it's me or other realtors, or you're not sitting on the sidelines just creeping people. You're picking up the phone, calling them, going, hey, how'd you do that? What's that, what's that look like? And then what's crazy is, on top of all of that, you're building one of the largest real estate portfolios in the province right now. You're investing in Alberta, in apartment buildings, you're doing cottages. You've got, like, what's the end goal? Like, do you know what that is yet, or are you just straight up hustling all the way to the finish line?
I like that. That's good. That's good. I would say for me, a big part when I started investing. So if you want to go real deep, I started investing because, I had no other option. So, as I said, I had been in a relationship, and my partner at the time, he was in the investor world, and we'd created a business together. We were working on flips and other projects. And that relationship ended. And it ended in a very terrible way. And when it ended, I was facing a crazy legal battle. And so I didn't have an option to just sit aside and let everything take over. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of emotions, but I realized that investing was a pathway to set me up so that in the future, if I was ever in a situation, I didn't need to be, financially reliant on the person that I was dating. Because initially, when we had started dating, I was very reliant on him.
Right.
And so that's kind of what started it. I had an opportunity to come in and purchase an apartment building. So did that. That was out in Calgary. And it was a pretty cool property just because it had penthouse suites. It was nice. It was new. It was in a great location. Um, and then yeah, from there purchased some stuff in Alberta and then Muskoka. And so I would say right now my doors are like 23 doors, 22, 23. And
In 3.5 years?
four.
Four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so but kind of what really sparked that initially, like I said, was just, wanting to be financially stable and secure. Um, I believe that as a woman, having your own, finances in order will, help you avoid very painful situations if things are to go wrong in a relationship. And so it started about that initially, and then it turned into what I would call passion projects. And so, as most people who follow me know, I love to travel, and there's specific locations that I've always loved to travel to. Prior to living in Muskoka, Muskoka has been a place that I've been going since I was like 8, 9 years old. And then, Alberta. Fell in love with the mountains. I think Alberta is a beautiful place. And so I started looking and investing in areas that I enjoy to frequent and travel to often. And yeah, so I would say I'm kind of more on a path now as I kind of look at the sort of starting to liquidate and get rid of things that just don't fit the mold. I'm starting to
Right.
focus more on passion investments, things that make me feel really good. For those who have been following me, I have a frame called A-frame Muskoka that was like, a dream of mine. And that is something that started out on a vision board and is actually a rental. It's done, and it's been a trying project to say the least, but it's something that I'm very proud of. So, I think as you said, we are in a very interesting market, and it's not just for realtors, but for investors as well. You're seeing people who are really leveraged and we're really forced to kind of come back to their why. And, a lot of the people who were just jumping in to get all these properties just to say, hey, I have a portfolio of, X, million, they're in situations where they've realized they've climbed so quickly and there's nothing that's actually keeping them glued to their investment, which, and when you're passionate about something, it's a different type of energy that goes into it. And it's a market where I'm starting to see more and more investors who just got into it just for one reason, which was money, starting to either exit or they're in trouble. And
Yeah.
so like I said, when you're passionate about what you're doing, it's just a different creative type of energy that comes into it, and you'll never fail. You may have a bunch of accents you might learn, but you'll never fail. And so
Right.
as I continue to grow my portfolio, I definitely want to stay focused on the short-term rental side of things and, just lining up more properties in places that I love and bringing my clients with me.
I love that. I love that. And we haven't. I'm gonna do something. My mom said never ask a woman her age, but I'm gonna put it out there. Shae, how old are you? Tell the people.
Sometimes people ask me and I actually forget. So I was born March 9th, 1992. So I am a Pisces. I am 32 years old. Am I 32, 31?
32.
No, 32.
32.
32. So
Damn.
inside, I feel like I'm 75 in
Yeah,
terms
you're
of
just an old soul. You're just
I
an
like,
old soul.
I'm an old soul. Yeah. Anybody
Yeah.
who knows me, I would say I'm an old soul. I'm very different, very unique. I'm a Pisces, so I'm emotional. I'm too intuitive for my own good. And
We're gonna talk about that intuition for a second because I remember like, you shared that story, and I didn't know if you were gonna go there. You shared that story about kind of things falling apart and having to pick yourself up and rebuild that, and from that intuition place. I think I called you that day randomly. I was driving home. I remember where I was. I was driving home from Bayfield, from a short term rental, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna talk to Shae in a couple of weeks. Something's going on. So I called you, and you were like, so my world fell apart. shit's going sideways and I got to figure out a new path. And I was like, damn, okay. And I remember thinking, I wonder what's going to happen next. And I don't think you lasted more than 2 weeks and you dusted yourself off and you were like, all right, I'm back at it. I need an agent here. I need an agent there. And you were, you were just back at it again. How are you able to, it's crazy. Like, people are going to listen to this and go, wow, because I've had the opportunity to kind of see it firsthand. And you've got this team of incredible ladies that are breaking down walls with you. And so how are you able to lead from a distance, right? Because you're in Muskoka, you've got Kitchener, you've got Niagara, you've got Paris, Brantford area, you've got Burlington. Like, how are you able to keep everybody moving in the same direction on your team?
Yeah, so I have a very different approach to real estate with my team. So right before I officially went live with my team was when my relationship fell apart. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it was just a relationship, that kind of thing. But I think, when you're in a time in your life where you're planning your future and there's a house, there's, animals, there's assets that are tied together, it really does affect a person. And the way my relationship ended was so traumatizing and horrific that and it was more than just like, hey, somebody got cheated on. It was way more than just that. Is, there's a whole other legal aspect of things that have happened. And
Long story short, Shay'll fight you.
long story short, I fought a battle. My name was cleared and it cost me a lot of money. But I'm going to actually say something that my lawyer said to me, because my lawyer ended up becoming a really great friend of mine. And, I remember when I was going through the separation, it was so hard because it wasn't just the physical, like, okay, my relationship's ended, the way it's ended, the things I was being accused of, the things that I had to prove, as well as, it was the fact that when I finally got back into my home, I walked into a house that was empty. My ex had taken all the furniture, had left my things on a box thrown on the ground, and things were taken from me, things that belonged to me, expensive things that meant something to me. And I remember in the legal battle, my lawyer had said to me, it's okay, you're gonna get through this, you're gonna get through this. And I just kept crying, and I was like, well, I feel like he won, because at this point I'm spending all this money in legal fees, I have two lawyers, and I had to start over. I had to go, buy all my furniture, buy my stuff back. And she said, no, she said, Shae, you know what, you won. I'm like, what do you mean I won? I didn't win. This guy's, he wants spousal support. How am I winning? It doesn't feel like I'm winning. And she had said, because you have your peace. And
Mm,
that changed my life, because at that
right.
point I started to realize that no matter what he hit me with, I still had my peace. I had a clear conscience because I knew what had happened that day and he knows what had happened that day. And despite everything that was thrown at me, I still rose. I still succeeded. And that person reached out to me not too long ago, was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I always knew you'd be successful. And I'm like, okay, bye.
Was it time to get a spousal support check? Was that?
Right? Luckily, I didn't end up having to pay it because I had a really great lawyer, but it was threatened to me. And so, yeah, I would basically say to you that, for me, I was so low because I think, the older you get, the harder it is to make girlfriends. And sometimes girls are just weird. I'm just going to put it out there. I think girls can get very insecure and just weird if they see a beautiful, confident person. They get I don't know, you obviously can't really relate, but at the same time, there is a stigma where girls aren't always as nice. It's not as easy to make girlfriends because some people can only see the exterior and get so intimidated that they don't want to take time to learn the interior of
Right.
that person. And so at that time when I was going through everything, I just wanted a girl gang. I wanted a girl group. People that I could pick up the phone, I could call, and I'd be like, listen, what's up? Let's go out, let's hang out. I just wanted that community because I felt like, yes, I had my girlfriends from high school who are all amazing and we're still very close. But when you're a realtor, it's a very different type of relationship, that you can maintain. And I wanted somebody who understood that. And so when I finally decided to pick myself back up and go all in with this team, for me, it wasn't about, I didn't need the highest and best top performer. What I needed was good people, loyal people, genuine people who would always have your back. I wanted those friendships. And so most people who know me know some of my core OGs are people from, other details in my life. So Met Caitlin back in college when both her and I were studying to become a probation officer. Tamaya,
Right.
Tamaya has been in my life since she was like 9 years old, and our moms are best friends, you know? And so it's like, and don't get me wrong, I've definitely made relationships and friendships with new girls as the team has grown, but for me it was just having a group of girlfriends. So we're not that team that's, you know, every week like, how much money are you making, how many deals, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that those people who do that are
As you
doing
say,
the
you're
wrong.
about to piss some people off with
I'm not saying that. I know. I had to add that in there. So I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just saying that for, you know, loyalty and you know, genuine relationships that to me are more important.
right.
And I know that in my life I will always be successful and I will always maintain and lead a very successful business. So my team isn't structured to completely benefit off of my agents. My team is structured to have the community and support that, you know, that you don't get when you're in real estate, because real estate's a very lonely industry if you don't
Yeah.
have those people. So yeah.
It sounds like everything about you points back to relationships. Like that's
Yeah.
simply, you know, your client base is relational, your team base is relational, and so you've structured a business that is very heavy on the relationships of the people around you. What's cool about that is we hear that over and over and over again, right? Like, don't be transactional, don't just look for the next deal, this, that, and the third. You want to genuinely create an environment that you develop relationships with people, and it sounds like you're doing that at a really high level.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think that, you know, when people come to join a real estate team, when you really start looking at a lot of the bigger high performing teams, there's not a whole lot of things that they're doing differently. And
Right.
you know, with real estate, it's easy to for it to become a big part of your life because it's we're almost always on. And so the difference in our situation is if something goes wrong and somebody's going through a bad breakup or somebody just needs some girlfriend time and support, everybody's there, and all of the girls, they come from very different backgrounds, but we have a very tight knit relationship and a friendship. And so we enjoy working together, we enjoy seeing each other. And you know, when we're hanging out, you know, a few weeks ago we were at Redstone Winery in Niagara. We're not talking about work, we're hanging out, we're having fun, we're talking about life, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about boys, we're talking about, you know, we're talking about goals. Like we're not just sitting there talking about, okay, well, how many deals did you do this month? You know.
Mhm.
So yeah, not to say for those who are doing it that it's wrong, but for me, it was really important to prioritize those actual relationships, uh,
Right.
because I
Do you get a
believe
lot of
that
judgment for that? Like, do you have people who are hating on you guys because of the persona, the look, the Instagram, the social media, the hanging out? Like, do you get a lot of haters for that?
absolutely, I don't care. Because like at the end of the day, if you don't like something, keep going. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But like, how dare anybody tell somebody that, you know, what they're doing that feels good to them is wrong or is not right or is not professional. I think that we live in a society where people are so quick to classify and stigmatize something. And you know, people say they're like, "Oh, you're not realtors, you're models." Well, yeah, we have really great genes. We're cute. Like, okay, like I don't know what else to say. Honestly, it's something that like I get DMs about this shit all the time. Sorry, but I get to points where I'm like, "What do you want me to say?" Like, we have good genes. We're girlfriends, you
I
know.
mean, you
So
guys, you guys are working. Like, that's the part,
we're
right? Like, somebody
working.
asked me the other day, because I get the occasional question. Somebody asked me the other day. They said, how much business are they doing? And I simply just replied, more than you guys. And
Why do you
probably not the
care?
right
That's what my
answer.
response would be.
Well,
Why do
and
you
here's the thing, though. Everyone wants to know the secret because you guys are productive. You are busy. It's not like it's all fake. It's on social media and nobody's making any money. You guys are writing deals. You're quickly becoming one of the top teams in the industry. And so, you know, I get those questions from time to time, like, how are they generating business? And I'm like, you know, somebody asked me that
care?
recently, and I said, you know, Shae is relentless at follow up. I said, that's the one thing I know about you. Like, you're gonna call. You can call back, you can send a text, you can send a message, you're gonna hit me up on social media. Like I can't ignore you for more than like 48 hours before you find a way to get a hold of me. And I'm assuming it's the same for your team and your client base where you're creating these relationships, these two-way conversations all over social media. It's the stuff that people aren't seeing behind the persona. Because yes, we got the pictures, we got the whatever, but then you're taking it either into private messages to attract clients, or you're reaching out directly, which is my assumption. And that's kind of what I've been telling people is I'm like, you're taking that conversation one step further. You're not just posting pictures to look good. You're using it as a lead generator in order to grow your business.
I'm going to say a few things here. So the first thing is I got to where I am because I'm not watching nobody else. I'm not competing with nobody else.
There you
I'm
go.
competing with the highest version of me where I know, okay, I can step one step ahead of that and I can become even better. And so that's what I would say to those people who are always like kind of watching. Stop watching everybody else. I'm not out here watching, oh, well, Andre's team did this many deals. I don't care. Good for you, you know? I'm just kind of focusing in my lane and I have blinders on, you know? And so
Right.
I would say that the next thing that I would definitely say is when it comes to your brand, make your brand about you because authenticity is everything. And anybody can go get professional photos done. Anybody can hire somebody to go get, nice marketing done. But at the end of the day, what you put out there in terms of how you show yourself matters. When you can make somebody look at your content or a video or your socials and actually feel something and relate to you as a person, that's how you will change the game and get more business. For those who ask, my business is 99% referral and Facebook leads only. I do not pay for Facebook leads. I do not pay for Instagram or social media leads. Also, I work my own personal Facebook. And so I don't have bots and admins out on my Facebook responding to people. My posts are me. What you see is what you get, and part of my life that I chose to share. One day, yeah, I might share a fun real estate photo. The next day, it might be a photo shoot of the girls and I, or something relatable. If anybody knows me, they know that when you see me posting quotes, I'm either talking to myself, my future self, or I'm just trying to share some love to people who are going through hard times because I've been there. And then, you'll probably catch my nieces on there or my horse Barnaby, but when you come to my page, you can see who I am, not just as a realtor, not just as not just as an auntie and a family person, but you can see me. And so I will say, don't discredit the amount of people that will come your way when you start authentically showing up as you. Because when I get new clients, literally the message starts out with, "Hey, Shae, I've been following your socials for a really long time. And let me just say, you are so unique. And I feel like I can relate to you in certain parts of my life. I want to work with you."
I love it. I love it. Shots fired, by the way. Stop watching me. That's what Shae
Stop
said.
watching.
Stop
Stop
watching.
listening.
Stop hating. Like, go find your own stuff. Look at your.
Yeah. Go do something that feels good for you. You know what I mean? I think we live in a culture and a society, especially in real estate, where realtors are always the best. I gotta put this out here because I've heard this or I've been asked this so many times. If you are a realtor who is looking up stats of other agents, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
I first got my license, the amount of realtors who were like, "Oh, I saw that you only did like 5 deals on the local board." So, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, there is a way where realtors can look up the stats of how many deals an agent has done every year. The best part about that, though, is that if deals are done off market, that doesn't show up. All that's showing up is the deals that are done on MLS. For a person like me who works with investors and does a lot of off market stuff and a lot of stuff with builders, there's like, I would say 85% of my business that doesn't show up. And I've literally had agents who are like, "Oh, I saw that you only did, X amount of deals this year. That's not a lot. You're saying you're a top producer, but different because you see the trades coming through with how much I make and how much business I'm doing." But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that stuff has to stop because I've definitely been in situations where I've had realtors say like, "Oh, well, how many deals have you actually did?" I actually had somebody reach out to me and they asked me like, "How many deals have you done this year?" And I told her I didn't know. I said, I'm doing very well. And I know I'm doing more than I did last year. I did very well. Like, I'm not a person who's sitting here counting, oh, I've done 66 deals this month, or sorry, up to this month. Like, I'm not, because that's not the point. I didn't get into it. I didn't get into real estate for this reason. I got into real estate to change lives, whether it was through investing or selling a home or helping people get out of bad situations. I got into
Right.
this business because I care. And so I'm not out here counting my numbers. I know that I'm changing, multiple lives, one transaction at a time. And that's what I care about. So
What I will say though, I will add to that, and you're right on all fronts. You're right on all fronts. And something that one of my first mentors said to me, and then I've heard it, Gary Vaynerchuk says it, other people say it, if you don't have haters, you're not doing it right. So the fact that you have haters showing up in your world, you have all this criticism coming at you, it means you're doing something that people can criticize.
yeah,
And that you're not criticizing anybody that's doing less than you, right? People only criticize people who are doing better than them. So take it as a compliment. Haters gonna hate. They're gonna be there. Nothing else to worry about. Shae, before we end today, I promised you I'd get you out early. Before we end today, I ask every one of our guests for a mic drop moment. What's something that you would share with our listeners, our viewers, that you believe they absolutely have to hear? I mean, you've given us a ton of stuff already, but what is like the one thing that you feel that everybody listening has to hear?
don't underestimate the power of manifestation and planning your goals and actually putting them to paper. Because I'm
Okay.
a person who, 5.5 years ago was living paycheck to paycheck. I'm a person who had a terrible credit score 5.5 years ago. And I'm a person who has completely transformed my life in every single way from manifestation and goal setting. So get around people and get around situations that are good, get around people who feel good from the inside out. And, even if you're in a situation where you can't physically help somebody or financially, give whatever you can, give your time, give advice, give sympathy, whatever you can give, even if it's not financial, contributions, give something. My mother always says to me, the good you do will always come back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that. I mean, like you said, we talked about happiness, we talked about relationships, we talked about doing what makes you authentic to you, and then you're rounding it out with manifestation. That's amazing, Shae. You've built an incredible business. We're so excited. One of the things that we will do is we'll have you back. Probably take me 2 years to get you back. Took me 2 years to get you on this time, but we'll have you
I'll
back in
come
a
back
couple of
next year.
years because we love to check in. We love to hear how those goals go and where you land on. Now we know that your social media is one of the places to get you. Is that the best way to get a hold of you? Like Facebook you, Instagram you? Like what's the best way for our
Instagram,
listener? Instagram?
absolutely.
What's your handle
Facebook,
on Instagram?
Instagram. So my Facebook is Shae McLeod. Real estate is McLeod and Associates Real Estate Advisors, and then Instagram is McLeod and Associates, and Facebook is Shae Nikisha. For those who don't know, Nikisha is my middle name, and so everybody's like, "What is that?" It's Shae Nikisha. So that's me. You'll catch a little bit of real estate. You'll catch a little bit of my personal life, and you'll get to know a lot about me.
All right. I love it. So, guys, this has been another incredible episode of The Real Estate Hustle. Shae McLeod, you can find her on Instagram. You can find her on Facebook. That's probably the two best ways. Make sure you follow her real estate team page as well. She also has her cottage rentals that she's taking care of. She's property management. She didn't even get into half the stuff that she's doing in her life. I just have a personal knowledge of some of those things. So I'm putting you out there, Shae. If you need help in the investing world, definitely somebody to talk to. My name is Andre Chin. You can find me on Instagram as well, Andre Chin KW. Or you can look up our real estate hustle page as well. We're all over Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, and everywhere else that you listen. Thank you. This has been another incredible episode. And Shae, thank you so much for being here and for sharing some knowledge with our listeners and viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you guys.